Hey, so this video is going to be a little more personal than usual. Normally I'm just set up on a webcam and I'm showing you how to do stuff on the computer. But I want to open up a little bit and tell you how I went from being a full-blown alcoholic slash druggie to a successful OnlyFans manager in the span of 5 years. So this doesn't mean that I was hooked on alcohol and then turned to an OnlyFans manager all in 5 years. This means I went from full quitting, because when you go through this you'll learn that quitting is actually a series of quitting and relapsing and getting back on that train again, and it's a big circle. But I went from full quitting to becoming successful in the span of 5 years. Well, it was actually about 3 years, but we'll say 5 years because it got a little dicey. It went from alcohol to drugs, and then I thought I was sober, but I wasn't because I was still doing drugs on the side. Anyway, so ever since high school, just like everyone else, I like going out and drinking and that. But the first time I tasted alcohol, I noticed that it went all quiet for me. Normally, I always had this anxious shadow on the back. It always felt like it was scratching, saying that you should be doing something. What are you doing here? You should be doing something better. It always felt like it was scratching away. And then as soon as I tasted alcohol, it was like that went away. Now, I tried to cure that itch by becoming an entrepreneur, because I'm guessing that was the itch. The itch was that I knew I was destined to be something better than this, and I wanted to become great, and I wanted to escape the normal 9 to 5, and I knew uni and that was not the answer. But then along the way, I decided to focus more on numbing that feeling with alcohol and drugs than actually pursuing it. So I spent years being an entrepreneur, developing apps, started a t-shirt company, developed a video game in high school. In high school, they called me the next Bill Gates because I made a video game, tried selling it, and that was like 14 years ago. And anyway, ever since then, I was always doing something, just born to sell, born to be an entrepreneur. But then along the way, along my journey of numbing this with alcohol and drugs, it took a real turn just before COVID. I went in to get surgery, had to get my tonsils removed because I was always getting tonsillitis. I was a full-blown smoker. I was smoking nearly a packet a day. Tonsils were just blowing up. And then I finally got my tonsils removed, and they gave me endone. And anyway, they accidentally prescribed me 2 scripts because they just really wanted to get me out of there. If you don't know what endone is, because I just forgot for a second that people around the world are watching this, it's pretty much OxyContin, really. Oxy makes everything goes quiet. I'll put it that way. Anyway, they overprescribed me with endone, and as soon as I tasted that, I noticed that everything was fun again. I could hang out with people without, this second person behind me saying, what are they thinking? Are you doing this right? Is the silence going too long? What should you say next? Are they happy? All of a sudden that all went away. Along with the feeling of what else are you should be doing? You should be working on something. You're just wasting your time here. Everything went quiet. So that kind of itch that I wanted to scratch by becoming an entrepreneur, it kind of went away because everything just got numb. But deep down, I knew what the cause was. I knew what the root of it was. And it was that I was not on my path. I was not on the path that I knew I should be taking. And so this got real hectic. Got to the point where I couldn't meet up with friends without being drunk. I don't mean 2 beers, whatever. I had to have a bottle of vodka. A bottle of vodka was like my normal day. A bottle of vodka was my normal day. Just drinking it straight out of the bottle. Felt cool when I went to parties, go to parties and walk around with this bottle, but little did everyone know, I'll be doing the same thing the next day when everyone was at home. And anyway, this just got really out of control. And underneath all this, I was doing e-commerce, selling mobile accessories online, and I was actually making no money, but I was portraying the image that I was making money because I'd always post screenshots and, videos of me packing orders. But really I was making no money, and deep down I knew that. But I just wanted to portray the image that I was still an entrepreneur, because then at least people thought that I was on the path that I was meant to be taking. But actually I knew I wasn't. And so I was always drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that. Anyway, so there came a time when it got real bad, and I couldn't even leave the house. It felt like my walls were closing in on me, and your comfort zone just gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't leave the bed without drug, without alcohol, without being drunk. And then at this point, I knew something had to be done. So a couple of friends came over one day and they said, whoa, what is going on? And I said, yeah, this drug I normally have, I couldn't get any in time, and so I'm going through withdrawals. And they said, you got to call this number. And so I called this number, and I ended up going to counseling. And I ended up doing counseling for a couple of years and going to NA meetings, which is Narcotics Anonymous. And while I was doing this, they said you can't switch from one addiction. Well, you can't turn off an addiction without switching to another one. So I thought this was a great opportunity to get back on that horse and become an actual entrepreneur. So this is how I'd stop thinking about all these, this addiction and stuff, alcohol and whatnot. I'd go to the library and I'd just be in there working because I couldn't go to a party. I couldn't hang around friends that drank alcohol because it was just too painful to say no. So the easiest way was just to not get invited. So I would just spend my time in the library and thinking up all these things and, all these plans and these like grand ideas. And anyway, fast forward it and I end up getting into OFM, into OnlyFans management, because it is pretty much e-commerce, except you have an unlimited supply of inventory. You have no unhappy customers. Oh, look, you get the odd one that reverses the purchase, but that's a different story. Oh, by the way, my finger's bleeding. Not sure. I was putting on clothes next minute, finger's bleeding. It happens. Where was I? Yeah, e-commerce. And all the skills that you use for marketing on e-commerce can apply to OFM as well. Now, the other thing that I liked about it was that it scratched all these kind of nerdy fantasies of mine, coding with that black hat on, doing things that you're not really meant to. And this is where anti-detect browsers, proxy IP addresses, image cloakers, all this different software to, use all these platforms like dating apps, Reddit, TikTok for marketing. I just naturally loved all that because I was a big nerd, because that's actually how I was getting my drugs, was from the dark web. So that's how I got introduced to, anonymity on the internet anyway. So it all kind of worked. I already had this skill anyway. And then someone told me about OnlyFans and I was like, that sounds great. And then, and then fast forward a couple of years and 3 years sober, and now a year and a half off cigarettes, and absolutely smashing it, going to the gym, working hard, but then there comes a point when you've worked so hard that it gets easier. So it's kind of like a video game. You start off and it's really fucking easy. It's really fucking difficult. You got to do everything the hard way. You got to work your way up. You got to grind it out. You got to do the things over and over and over again. That is fucking boring. But then you get to a point where you start seeing it pay off, and then it gets easier. And now guess what? I wouldn't even call it work anymore. And staying away from alcohol is just fucking easy, because that itch that I was talking about at the beginning of this video is finally being scratched the proper way. That entrepreneurial itch is being scratched the proper way, instead of me numbing it and it getting worse. And so everything is just getting easier, to the point where I felt like opening up on this video. Anyway, I couldn't go on too deep because I could write a book about it. I literally am writing a book about this. But that would be like a 3-hour long video. So that's why I jumped around a little bit. So anyway, that's the basics of how I went from being a full-blown alcoholic to a successful OnlyFans manager in the span of 5 years. I'd call it hooked on alcohol for like 15 years, but it was in 5 years that I went from actually completely stopping to becoming what I would call successful. Now, of course, I'm not going to say I'm there at the top yet, because otherwise I'll get complacent, but I'll tell you what, I'm fucking on my way. So anyway, I just want a different video just in case anyone else is in my position. If anyone else is in my position and you're destined to be an entrepreneur, but then the weekends are too tempting, and then you get drunk and suddenly everything goes silent and you're like, wow, my mind's finally quiet, this is great. And then you get hooked on it, and then you're drinking more and more, and then your entrepreneurial dreams are actually just fading away by the wayside. I just want to reach out and say, stop numbing it. The only way you can scratch that itch is by fucking working hard, going to the gym, and doing all the things that you were destined to do. Because after a while, you'll start seeing it pay off, and everything will get easier. And then quitting these addictions will actually get easier, because you were just fulfilling yourself the natural way by working fucking hard. So anyway, I hope that made some sense. I thought I'd just make a different video. I just want to open up to you all. And that's it. So if you like the video, go smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you on another video.